Alright, welcome to episode 2.
I'm Johnny.
I'm Lee.
Welcome to the pit.
The podcast bit. I like the name, I thought it was a good name because this feels kind of like a pit, being sat like this.
It is a bit of a pit.
My house is a bit of a pit.
It's a man cave.
Right, so this time round, where the fuck's my drink? Oh, bastard. I'll get it because you're mic'd up.
Yeah.
You can announce the topic while I'm grabbing my drink.
Well, I believe we're talking about conspiracies.
You don't need to speak up, you can just talk normal volume. That mic will pick up everything.
Speaking to you. I believe we're talking about conspiracies this week.
Conspiracies and myths and stuff like that.
Yeah, myths, legends.
Yeah, just because I think it's interesting shit to talk about. And I picked out a couple of interesting, like, weird shit for us to look at as well.
Yeah.
Right, so, what were they talking about on Joe Rogan? Like, the age of civilization, something like that?
Yeah, well, this has become quite an obsession of mine at this moment in time. Well, there was a guy on, I think he's a geologist, he's got a few other PhDs or whatever, and his name's Graham Hancock, and he was on with another guy called Randall Carson, and they've recently come up with, they've hypothesized this theory. They've got a lot of evidence to back it up as well. that there is an event, a cataclysmic event, 12,800 years ago, between 11,600 years. So in that time frame, they suspect that a comet has hit the Earth. It's melted the North Atlantic polar cap or whatever it was, and from that
basically it's melted a lot of glacial ice. Yeah,
and a lot of fresh water, and there's been a giant freshwater flood. They can tell this, and the reason they know this is because of ice cores. Like, they drill ice cores. Like, the deeper they go, the older the ice is, and they can get quite accurate geological information from the ice cores. I don't understand how it works, but I know the scientists they accept
well, neither of us
this.
are geologists, so we can't answer how it works.
Yeah, but it basically the scientists accept that this is a legit. It's an actual thing.
Yeah, I actually watched the podcast after you basically made me watch it, but it was interesting shit. And then I checked out some of the stuff that they were talking about, mostly like the geological evidence for the event that they were talking about, and it's actually not something that's in dispute. There is, the whole of the geological science community does agree that this flooding event happened, but the mainstream scientists and geologists, they believe that it wasn't one big flood. It was, did I turn my mic on? Yeah, I did. Yeah. It wasn't just one big flood, it was a series of small floods happening over the span of about 2,000 years.
Yeah. I believe, like, the event... Well, basically, the theory is that these wiped out they wiped out the ancient civilizations. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, basically, there is certain evidence that backs up these theories for ancient civilizations. Like, the Sphinx is a big controversial topic of discussion due to the fact that this Graham Hancock and Randall Carson both believe that the Sphinx was actually made a long before they thought that the Egyptian civilization started, which is about 6,000 BC. They're actually saying it's a long time before that. They're saying like 12,000 BC roughly. So obviously the civilizations predate that. The reason that there's not much evidence is because the Earth's, well, the sea levels are now 400 foot higher, I believe, due to these floods and the melting of these ice sheets. or whatever you want to call them. There is other evidence. There's a place near Turkey called Göbekli Tepe. Yes. And,
I haven't actually researched Göbekli Tepe yet. I did think it was an interesting story.
Well, they date it round about the same time. They've got a lot of big monoliths. They're like T-shaped monoliths. They're all heavily decorated. It's believed it's like the first ever like religious. I think they were saying it was a religious place. It was also a storehouse where they used to store all the goods and share it between the community. I believe, or maybe that was the smaller ones.
So to sum up a little bit then, what Joe Rogan's podcast was saying, or rather the people he had on his podcast, and what you agreed with, was that there are civilizations which are older than the ones that we have currently recorded.
Yeah.
And that there is some evidence. What was the evidence of the actual civilizations? I can't remember. Oh, there isn't any. They were saying that this big flood caused by the glacier melting from the meteor strike
not just
wiped away any trace of these civilizations.
Not just the floods, because this is there's also evidence to suggest that this is why they believe the comet theory of the comet coming into the atmosphere, because there's evidence in the geology that suggests there was massive wildfires like 12,000 years ago. It was a global cataclysmic event. The places that didn't experience floods, they experienced drastic temperature changes, wildfires. They were also on about the mammoths in Siberia. There's a mass graveyard of mammoths in Siberia. There's like 10,000 of these mammoths. It was a big herd, and basically they all just died.
In the same spot at the same time.
At the same time, and like basically half of the legs have just been snapped clean in half from like some form of it must be an explosion, something big enough to snap 5,000 mammoths' legs at once. It's it's a big thing.
Unless they were just really shit ice skaters.
Oh, I doubt it. They lived in the Ice Age, so they must have had practice. But basically, there's two of these graveyards. There's one in North America, Canada, I believe it is, and there's one in Siberia, which suggests again these comet theory is that it broke up in the atmosphere. It's a larger part of the comet that struck the Earth years ago. Basically, they were saying that we pass through an asteroid belt twice a year. Basically, these events.
It's
I can't remember
the Taurus asteroid belt. I think.
Yeah, the Taurus belt. Yeah,
Taurus belt. That's it.
And we pass through it twice a year.
And going through this is what causes these cataclysmic events, or is what has caused the ones that have happened. Not that it causes one every time that we go through it.
If you look up on Wikipedia, which I actually did, because I thought, what's the solid evidence? I thought I'll go to a place where the information is usually correct. You know what I mean?
These days they're not bad, yeah.
So I checked up on there and I was looking. They say that there's been 5 global cataclysms that have happened since the humans have first. Well, we say humans; they were more Neanderthals back then. 2 million years ago. There's 5 global cataclysms that have nearly wiped out our civilization and wiped out a lot of other civilizations through. There's many more throughout history. I mean, obviously the dinosaurs, the theory, the meteor theory is the more accepted in society.
For the dinosaurs, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I think that's the mainstream theory for dinosaurs, is that
there'll be a lot
of the Earth and caused dust and heat, which either wiped them out initially or they died from a lack of vegetation and food.
Yeah. Basically, that's. I mean, there's other theories like the reasons why people were. There's the super volcanoes is another one.
The Yellowstone Park thing.
There's actually.
I know there is one there, but I don't know how accurate the information is that it is an active super volcano. I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure
it's not the only one.
Do you know? this is what Google was made for.
Well, Wikipedia actually
To
looked
fact
up
check stuff. So let's have a look and let's fact check.
I checked out the. There's more than 6 supervolcanoes on the planet, and there'll obviously be more that we don't know about. But apparently, these they put a time limit of about between 10 and 20 years, 20,000 years every time they go off.
Oh no, you're right. It is still an active volcano.
There's one in Italy as well, which is the only European supervolcano. And it sits like Naples is built on top of this supervolcano.
I actually thought that
they're called calderas. That's what they're called, supervolcanoes.
I actually thought an interesting thing in their podcast, what the two geologists were talking about, was how they knew that these massive glaciers had actually been there and, moved across the land.
But the evidence that they show, like the ripples and like the, I don't know how much you watched it. Did you listen to it? Or did you actually watch it?
I watched all of it. I watched the whole thing. Just
because, like, the
I'll see if I
evidence
can
is showing
find some of the videos so you can see
the
what we saw.
The photos that they were showing was like ripples, like
yeah. The one I thought was fascinating was that one that looked like it looked like a river delta, like it had been carved by a river in the land.
Yeah.
Which obviously you don't get that from. It looked exactly like a river delta.
And like the theory that they have about the water.
These are all in areas where there's little water and there's no ice anywhere.
Yeah. Well, basically they carved out a flattened a big piece of America through 5 states. They're saying the glaciers and the floods come down. They basically ripped out. It's like they're saying the waves that would have been caused like 1,000 foot high. So there would have been really no safe place. Obviously, the waves would have receded the further down the globe you go. But 1,000 foot, that's pretty like.
From what level, though? Sea level or crust level?
From sea level, I think.
It's still pretty big, even if it was just sea level and not crust level.
Well, how big is Ben Nevis in Britain? I mean, it's only like,
I don't know,
relatively small in
mountain
standards. I mean, Mount Everest, I believe, is only about 8,000 meters.
Again, I'm not. Shall I Google it? Let's find out.
I think 8,800, something like that.
So I'm a bit lost now, because I think I'm conflating two different things into one idea.
Yeah. Well, there is theories for everything.
No, well, the lost civilizations thing that we started on, it doesn't actually relate to this cataclysm, does it? Well,
yeah, because they believe that this is what wiped them out. This is why we had a reset.
But what's the evidence for this lost civilization, though?
There's Göbekli Tepe. He's one of them.
But that's not in the same place as this cataclysm, though.
No, but like I said, it was a global cataclysm, they believe. There wasn't a place that wasn't touched by this. It nearly wiped out the entire planet, species. They had a graph where they were saying, I think 80% of all organic life and marine life was wiped out by this global cataclysm. 80%. That's quite dramatic numbers. Some species were wiped out completely. A lot of species.
Göbekli Tepe. So, this is an archaeological site in southeast Turkey.
Yeah.
And blah 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 blah.
They date the oldest parts of it from 12,000 years ago.
Yeah, well, so they're saying that some of it is pre-pottery Neolithic circles of massive T-shaped stone pillars. The world's oldest megaliths. They're about 20 feet high. It doesn't really say what importance. Let's have a look. So it's regarded by some as an archaeological discovery of great importance, since it could profoundly change the understanding of a crucial stage in the development of human society. Some people say it was built by hunter-gatherers, but then researchers say that it couldn't be built by hunter-gatherers because they erected these massive megaliths, which they're saying that hunter-gatherers... I remember this part of the podcast. It's not that hunter-gatherers weren't smart enough to do it, it's that there was no need for a hunter-gatherer society to do it.
Yeah.
Because a hunter-gatherer society is hunters and gatherers. Their entire job is to find food and eat it, reproduce. Like, they have no goals beyond that. It's a survival society.
Yeah.
So these megaliths that were constructed would have been done by a society which favoured aesthetic things in addition to just survival.
Yeah. Also, it wasn't about surviving anymore. It was about making a better life. They stopped like.
Well, when you've got yourself a nice megalith, it does make your life a lot better.
Yeah, they're heavily religious and what have you. This is how they believe the theory, because the ones built after the oldest ones, because they basically from the ground they built it 12,800 years ago, and then on top they covered it up, built on top of it again, covered it up, built on top of it again over time, over about, I think the time period they give is about 4,000 years. But the older, the newer ones, the ones that predate this cataclysm, actually show some form of global event in these, I don't know what you call them, pictures.
Oh, you mean cave paintings and stuff?
They're not cave paintings, they're on the monoliths. The
monolith
T-shaped
paintings.
Yeah, they're
or
like just carvings.
carvings?
Yeah, and I can't remember what the archaeological name for them is.
It doesn't matter. We're not going to use archaeology terms anyway. We're just going to lose people if we do that.
But they date it, and there is actually these events were recorded across the world. Do you know that there's all ancient civilized? They're basically saying that the story of Noah as well, the great floods. Do you know, it kind of has a, do you know, there's no date for when all this stuff happened.
I guess if you try and separate fact from fiction, and you, especially in years a long time ago, the story started with a seed of truth, we'll call it, a seed of an event, and then they were, embellished upon. So if we imagine that the story of Noah has a grain of truth to it,
but this is what I'm saying.
Then maybe the flood that the Joe Rogan and his geologist friends were talking about, this big flood that happened as a result of the meteorite hitting, is these older civilizations telling the story of that event happening.
Yeah, and over years it's been warped and retold, and then they've made it relevant to wartime. And I guess a bit of the knowledge has got lost over 10,000 years, because it does get embellished and it'll get changed.
Like Chinese whispers, but not Chinese.
Just time changes it. I mean, it's hard to know, because there is actually no record. In fact, he was talking about this Graham Hancock. He's saying there's a chamber. He's saying that it's very like a corrupt science. It's all about, they don't want to stray away from the theories, because these are the theories they teach, and when they start teaching something else, they really I
was just checking you hadn't fallen off the camera again.
No, he's basically saying that they don't like straying from the theories that they've already got, and they've spent so much time teaching and that, because then people realise that, a lot of the stuff that they're on about is probably wrong. It's just,
they don't want to challenge the status quo.
Exactly, yeah. But I think he actually says that.
Yeah, I do. I get where they're coming from with that, but by that same token, if you were the one scientist, the one researcher that proved that this theory was correct, you'd be the person that you'd give a whole paradigm shift to that particular field. So
I think
the idea that they're unmotivated to challenge the theory because they don't want to upset the status quo doesn't hold for me, because that's not science. Science is interested in upsetting the status quo.
Yeah, but this is what he's saying. These are the mainstream. He does, like they were saying, they set up this program, the Comet research program. He had a thing where he would saying for donations. He's had to go to the public because no one in mainstream science will even put the money to research it because they don't accept the theory. I can't remember what he was saying the actual theory was. We're going to be here for about 3 hours here tonight. Just because I've heavily researched it. And
Shut up.
He's my new favourite guy, that Graham Hancock, you know.
Well, it is good. Wait till I get my microphone back. I think it is good to be interested and excited about science. I think it's good. And it's also good to research and be interested in new ideas within science. Because if nobody ever challenged anything or explored something new, we would have no scientific discovery. So I don't think it's a good thing that people close their minds to ideas. No matter how outlandish an idea may be, you shouldn't take it off the table.
Yeah, I think they touched on the theory that people don't really like to think about end of the world. It kind of makes them uneasy. Like they're you know, a drop in the lake.
I don't totally agree with that, because pretty much every religion talks about the end of the world.
Oh yeah, different, and it's not the. This is what the you know they were trying to stress on this thing, on this podcast, that these things have happened before. They are going to happen again. Like any comets, floods, like supervolcanoes, it's all documented. There's all evidence on the Earth of these things happening. I mean, you just look at like Krakatoa, like 1878, I think it was.
This is the people that disappeared, right?
No, Krakatoa is a volcano.
Oh yeah,
that went off in 1878.
I'm thinking of Croatoan.
And the actual, like, the world was blanketed in a cloud of ash for like 2 weeks. Do you know, everywhere went dark, the full planet. Do you know, it documented, it's well, more or less the full planet. It's like over here, we had no sky, no sunlight for 2 weeks because of this volcano going off, and that wasn't even a super volcano, that was just a volcano.
But though, one of the dangers with thinking that way is that you're confusing correlation with correlation with causation. So you and those other people on Joe Rogan's podcast are saying, well, this stuff's happened before, so it's going to happen again. And that's not necessarily true.
Oh,
maybe on a long enough time scale, it is a certainty.
Well, you think now how
human beings are a blip in the universe. You know, we are one of the youngest things in our known solar system, even on our own planet.
That's because we know very little when it comes to just our solar system. We know so little.
I know, but I know what you're saying. But yeah, on a long enough time scale, it's a definite that there is going to be a cataclysmic event again. But within the span of the human era, is it likely it's going to happen? They can't say for sure that it is going to happen.
There's been 5 already since we started, since the human race came, since we document and we've found that the oldest specimens, and I think the 2 million years, I think, is about when we started evolving from chimpanzees. If that's the accepted theory today, you know what I mean. There's so many going about or whatever. But in that time, there's been 5 that we know about. The Yellowstone, the last time it erupted was 70,000 years ago.
That doesn't mean it's due. 70,000 years is nothing compared to the timeline of the universe. It's not even anything Ice Age compared to the timeline of this planet.
We had the Ice Age, and then where this comet hit, the Ice Age kind of ended, and then it re-emerged again, and then it come back. This is what
I'm kind of curious about this. I want to see what ended the Ice Age, or what is the accepted theory of what ended the Ice Age.
I can't remember what it's called. I'm sure I've said it. The giant. Oh, I can't remember what it's called.
What thawed the last ice age? Scientific American. This is a fairly reputable source. Right, so
I don't know if it's
due to higher levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide. That's kind of ironic, isn't it? Considering that's what we're reducing right now. We're trying to reduce CO2 emissions, aren't we? And according to the Scientific American, the reason that the last ice age thawed was due to an increase in atmospheric carbon dioxide, which then caused higher temperatures and melted the ice.
Where would the carbon dioxide come from?
Oh, well, that's easy. Or is it? A lack of plant life, wouldn't it? Because of the ice age, there's less plant life to absorb the carbon dioxide and turn it into oxygen. So then once the ice thaws, the plants all start to grow and multiply, and we get more oxygen, which gives rise to more life.
So that's their theory.
That's the accepted theory, yeah.
Yeah.
The mainstream theory.
This is what they're trying to the question now. I don't. When did the last ice age actually end?
I think it was 10,000 years ago.
It'd be 12,800 years ago, won't it?
10,000 years ago, roughly.
Roughly. Yeah, and that's because.
20,000 years ago. Sorry, I read the wrong part. My fault. Correction.
I'll tell you here. I did have a Wikipedia thing. This is from.
Well, actually, it says between 20 and 10,000 years ago. So that's quite. I guess it's not really a large margin of error because, like I said, that's a tiny blip in the timeline of the
This is
Earth.
what you want. If anyone's interested in this, what you want to research is the Younger Dryas. Dryas spelled Dryas. That's the event we're talking about. Now,
this is when the meteor hit and caused melting of ice sheets into tsunamis, basically. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, it says here it's a series of comet impacts over the North American Central, well, more or less everywhere. They've got some numbers on here. I think the different impact sites that they've found.
I know that on the podcast they said this happened 12,800 years ago, and like I said, this part of the theory it's not even in dispute. You know, mainstream geology accepts that there was a period of flooding. It's
science, not geology. It's science that doesn't accept this theory. Geology does accept this theory. It's scientists that don't. They're saying it's impossible. It's not. We'd know.
Well, I don't think they say it's impossible. I think they just say, a common thing in science is the thing called Occam's razor. Do you know what Occam's razor is?
No, I'm not quite sure.
It's the idea that the simplest answer to an explanation is quite often the correct answer to an explanation. To a question, sorry.
Yeah.
So they're saying that it is more likely that it was a series of smaller floods over 2,000 years than it was one giant flood. So it's not. I don't think it's that they say that it's completely discounted. It's just that they feel that it's more likely to be a series of smaller floods. But then they don't specify how big those floods are either.
This is my issue. They don't specify. This is why Randall Carlton and Graham Hancock, they specify what they think they know. They do give you information. They show you evidence. They should. The Earth's geology clearly shows that there was a giant flood years ago. There's impact craters in. There's impact craters in places that they've only just recently found, like the Greenland one. They didn't know it was there, and considering only 5% of the ocean floor has been explored, it's. There's going to be more, basically. There's going to be a lot of it, and this is
I guess it's possible. I'm not going to say it's probable because I don't think that's accurate.
The Grand Canyon's an impact crater, isn't it? They believe.
Is it?
They believe it's the biggest impact. That apparently.
I thought that one of the Gulf of New Mexico was the biggest impact crater. Like the Gulf of New Mexico is the impact crater that wiped the dinosaurs out.
Oh, it could be. I think it is actually.
I'm sure Grand Canyon is just erosion over time. Let's have a look. Impact crater, Grand Canyon. We live in such a good and such an amazing age. So I remember being like 10 years old, 12 years old, and when I had a question, I had to go to the library. So I had to walk all the way to the library first. Then you had to look through the reference section to find a book that might have the answer to your question. Then you had to look through the book to find if it had the answer to your question. So in these days, I can just type Grand Canyon Impact Crater on Google, and within 2 seconds, my answer's right there. There is one. It's not the biggest one. It's the best preserved impact site on Earth. But they do say it's as deep as a 60-story building and as wide as 20 football fields, so it's pretty fucking big. Man, I would have loved Google when I was 10.
So when did they believe that meteor hit?
The Grand Canyon one, that is 50,000 years ago. So it's way before the time period we're talking about.
But this is another one that nearly wiped us out.
Well, I'm sure it does happen from time to time.
And I believe I watched, and they believe that this is where they can put like the cradle of civilization, the Garden of Eden. Like this is why we all come from Africa, because of that event. Because it more or less wiped out the human civilization.
I thought the reason that we all came from... We don't all come from Africa.
We all derive from the people that come from Africa.
We're all derived from the people that live in Africa now.
But it
wasn't Africa when we all evolved from there. When we created our societies, it was... What is it called? When it was one big supercontinent? Is it Pangaea? That sounds right.
Yeah, it all broke away, but I think it broke away long before.
That's why we're not really all from Africa. It's just that we were all one place, and that Africa is the place that stayed in the same place.
No, but they're saying they can trace just a population.
I feel like I must be wrong. Pangaea seems older than humans.
Yeah, I think it broke apart a bit before that.
I think Pangaea is like even pre-dinosaurs. I'm fucking up there. I must be surely.
But yeah, they can trace civilization. They don't know what happened before that. They know they were other. The Clovis civilization. They were documented. They roamed the forests of Siberia, North America from.
I'm totally wrong. Pangaea started to break away 200 million years ago, and we've definitely not been around for that long.
They date 2 million years, they believe. They found a skull, Lucy, in Siberia.
That doesn't sound right. 2 million. The human race isn't 2 million years old, is it? I need to Google this. How old is the Queen? I don't want to know how old the Queen is. The human race. 200,000 years, not 2 million. The earliest fossils of anatomically modern humans are from the Middle Paleolithic.
Well, no, that's us. That's us as Homo sapiens. That's not Neanderthals.
No. But we're the same thing. They said this recently. Neanderthals and Homo sapiens were almost the same thing. Google it if you don't believe me. It's true. It's true.
Yeah, we are now.
No, we're the always
product. We're the product of what?
Neanderthals weren't these. They weren't cavemen like people think. Neanderthals were very similar to Homo sapiens.
Yeah,
They even think that Neanderthals as a species still has some roots in Scandinavia.
There's three different human races. Not like we class races today. Like it's three. There was Homo erectus.
Yeah, you're thinking of genus types.
Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, all living on the earth at the same time. Some of them got wiped out, some of them end up interbreeding, which eventually made us. It's why they were saying that only Europe and bits of Africa have Neanderthal genes in them. but they have both genes in them. Because obviously they had to interbreed they had to breed different races, otherwise we would have died out.
Yeah, but you can't say, like, human civilizations, as close as it is to us now, you can't say that cavemen 2 million years ago were the same as human beings today.
No, that's not the
like
point
comparing
I'm
a
making.
lizard with a dinosaur.
I'm making what I'm saying is that the birth of us, not as we are now, but the journey to get from what we were to what we are started 2 million years ago.
Well, no, if you're going to go that route, then it actually started way before that, because it started when the first life on the planet started. I don't even know how long ago that was. 1 billion? I feel like 1 billion sounds like probably too much.
It's
When was the first life on the planet?
the first life on the planet. Well, you're going to go back a long, long time here.
No, well, you're saying that you're going back to when humans as a species started, and you're totally ignoring the fact that the Cro-Magnon man, the what we think of as caveman, they might have been 2 million years ago, but that's not even close to being us. Like I said, that's like the difference between a lizard and a dinosaur. Are they loosely related? Yeah, of course they're loosely related, but they're not the same species.
Well, it'd be the difference between a dinosaur and a lizard, wouldn't it? Because a dinosaur predates a lizard.
I was just comparing two species that have common ancestral lines, but obviously are not even close to being the same species. So, I think this brings us to another question, really. Is the history that we are told now the correct history? Or is it just our version of history?
It's basically, I think it's our version of history. I think we know a lot more than what they're letting on. The governments of the world, they know the history more than what we do. They just don't tell us. They want to tell us the history that they want us to know.
This is an interesting discussion. Why would they hide it?
Power, knowledge is power.
But only if you're wielding it against people.
Which they are, because we don't know.
But it's not giving them any advantage, so it's not being wielded.
Well, we don't know.
It's just being hoarded.
Why? Right, let's ask ourselves. Why? Because it'd change everything. Everything we believe about civilizations and where we come from. It'd change everything.
I do think
everything that we teach in our schools would be wrong. We'd have to rethink everything about our species.
But we do that sometimes, though. You're saying this under the assumption like the government doesn't want to change everything. But there's loads of times we've had to change everything. There's been loads of paradigm shifts especially within the realm of science. And I guess...
But you think in the terms of discoveries about the human civilization, right? When was the last time a big discovery of this magnitude was made about the human civilization? And the last one that was Lucy. I can't remember how old she was. The girl found in Siberia, trapped in ice.
Oh.
But it was a skeleton, they named her Lucy, and apparently it's really old. And it's actually like a
How do you know about it?
It did a big thing on it on BBC.
So why would they tell everyone that but hide everything else?
They're not giving people the evidence. They're not exploring all the possibilities and saying that they are possibilities. Just going, oh no, it's this reason. Instead of looking at it all because they're just discrediting some theories because they're too outlandish.
But aren't you kind of doing the same thing when you're saying, oh, that theory's bollocks, this theory's the right one, I believe this one?
I'm just saying, I believe that theory. That doesn't mean to say that it's bollocks, it means it's what I believe. It means that they've argued their point and they've convinced me that what they're telling me is true.
I do think there is some revisionist history. Pretty much any country, when they're talking about the country's conquests, I think it's all revisionist history. I think most of it is lies.
The story about the British Empire,
not just the British, any empire.
What I learned in school was not the true story of the British Empire. It was paved over. It was made us to look like this glorious empire.
Yeah, it was sanitized, basically.
We basically raped, murdered, destroyed,
stole.
Yeah,
pillaged.
we basically did everything. We were horrible, horrible people back then.
Didn't.
No, we didn't do it personally, but our country did. But what do you know? It's just the way of the world was different back then.
But I think the difference between these two things is, like I said, I do agree there is some revisionist history. In particular, when we're talking about the history of particular nations. But that's not what we're talking about here. Why would they do revisionist history on something which is shared history for the entire planet? Nobody gains from them hiding anything, which is why I find it. And it's why I put it in the category of conspiracy theory, because there's no real motivation for them to hide this information. There's nothing to be gained.
They knew that Atlantis was real, right? Let's say they knew it existed. These government, these higher powers, they're going to be the ones that want to find it. They're not going to be the ones, some geologist.
But what would be the reward for finding
advances, because
technological advances from a civilization that sunk thousands of years ago?
You can look to the ancient Sumerians and know that they had
technology is a lot better than theirs.
It is now, but they also knew a lot that we didn't know. It's already been shown with the Aztecs and everything like that they had knowledge of the stars. It's incomprehensible how they knew that much about the galaxy and the universe.
But how useful is that information to us now?
Well, we don't know that. We don't know the relevance of the information until we know the information.
Let's assume that they did, and I'm going to assume that they didn't find laser guns and lightsabers in Aztec temples. That they found stuff that was advanced for the Aztecs, but was still very low tech by our standards.
No, they knew. Like only in recent years, right? In astrology and stuff like that, we learnt a lot from the Mayans. They taught us a lot about astrology. Do you know, this is a known fact. Not just the Mayans, the Aztecs. Do you know, all these people that shouldn't have known about even the Egyptians. Everything's all astrology based. Do you know, the buildings that they built, the geometrical shapes that they built them in, and the pyramids, do you know, they all line up with the stars and everything like that. Another thing, why the pyramids all over the world? All over the world. This complex thing that we would struggle to build.
We wouldn't struggle to build it.
I think to build it perfect.
They're not perfect. That's a common misconception. But the pyramids aren't perfect. They're not geometrically perfect. No,
because there's evidence to suggest that they was geometrically perfect at one point. Thousands of years of weathering and erosion has eaten that away, sort of thing. There's even evidence to show that the head on the Sphinx isn't actually the real head.
That might be the case.
It was a real lion's head.
It still doesn't prove that Egyptians were... That's weird.
Is that 40 minutes now? That cannot be.
I think so, yeah.
Wow, it is. We've been talking for ages and we've not even discussed any other subjects yet.
Doesn't matter. I guess I'll have to edit this bit out where you nearly die.
No, it's alright.
It's all that asthma that you have.
Wink, wink.
It's not asthma. That doesn't sound like an asthma cough. It doesn't even sound like a smoker's cough. At least, not a tobacco smoker's cough.
Shit, it's good.
Right.
So where were we? I believe we were
revisionist history. We'll go back on this because I know you said you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I wanted to make a point about what we really know about World War II. Like, I can't remember who said it, but someone did a good inspirational quote where I think you said this last week as well. Like the winner the winner writes the history, basically.
Yeah, history is written by the winners.
Yeah, so basically we never know, because we were the winning side in both World Wars. We don't know, we believe why it started. I don't know though. Personally, I just know what I've been told by my schools, the syllabus that we get taught, which is all set up by the government.
Do you know it's a crazy, just to go off on a bit of a tangent, do you know there's a crazy story about Hitler? And I said, you know that before he went into politics, he wanted to be an artist, a painter, and he applied to a university. I think it's in Austria. He applied to an art college in Austria or Germany. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's Austria. But he applied for an art college, and he got refused. Imagine if they'd accepted him as an art major in their college, he might never have gone into politics. How crazy is that? Wow. Meant to be a good painter. I've never seen his paintings. He's a fucking asshole, so I'm not sure that I want to, but...
He was a very crazy guy. There's just like also theories. We got told Hitler died in World War II. Yeah, I believe there's a general conspiracy theory that he made his way to South America after World War II and he lived his life out comfortably. Do you know, I've actually seen a lot of these shows, and do you know,
oh shit, is that why in X-Men First Class, when Magneto's tracking down Nazis, he goes to Argentina, doesn't he?
Yes, he does, yeah.
I believe that never occurred to me before.
And I believe that place is Colonia Dignidad, which is a real place, which he went to.
Well,
they've just done a film about it.
They speak German. That's the first language.
I think it's called Colony. And I can't remember who's in it. There's a few. I am sorry. I know. Birds. Don't ever get a bird.
What's wrong with birds? I used to have 3 zebra finches, they were
They just want to talk all the time. You know what I mean? I've just said give me 10 minutes, but reality is it's going to be
probably going to be way longer. We've got so much to cover in this podcast.
In an hour.
I bet most of this isn't going to make it into the final cut because I think my laptop will blow up if I try and edit a 3-hour podcast on it.
I don't think we'll get 3 hours, but...
No, not 3 hours. So revisionist history, you were talking about the conspiracy theory.
Colonia Dignidad. It's not the only Bavarian colony in South America.
There's all the Spanish colonies, there's English colonies down, there's Portuguese colonies.
We're talking like colonies of thousands of people where they don't speak the native language. They speak entirely German. They have their own doctors, their own society, like built within this own country. Do you know, they don't even use their own. They use their own currency to trade between each other, and like these are all people that are supposed to be descendant of Nazis. Like obviously, there's not going to be any Nazis anymore because you know they're all going to be dead by now. Safe to say there might be a couple alive, just like there is still a few World War II veterans, but they're going to be very few and far between. So now they're all like second generation Nazis and that. And did you know they were a guy they were talking to that lived in one of these places, and from the sounds of it there's a lot of atrocities going on. There's a guy called Joseph Menangle. He was an SS officer for the Nazis. They called him the Angel of Death.
Yeah.
And he was rumoured to have gone to South America. This programme, they went to go and find him.
He's a doctor, isn't he? He's not.
Yes.
He's not a Nazi. Well, he's an officer, but he's actually a doctor. He's the guy that did all the like crazy experiments on Jewish children and stuff.
Yeah. He was rumoured to have escaped to South America as well. This is who this guy Tim Kennedy. He had a show. I can't remember what network it was for, but he had a show called I think it was called Hunting Hitler, and he was hunting the theory that Hitler had actually escaped on a U-boat and made his way to South America, as did a lot of Nazis and their families. They're saying these colonies are quite big and they're quite like spread out over the lower part of South America, Argentina, Peru, Uruguay, Chile. Do you know, all in these remote places where they've built their own settlements. Do you know, they've been self-sufficient.
You know what I think I like about this theory, that Hitler escaped, is, I think, who was I watching? I was watching someone anyway, I can't remember who the fuck I was watching, but they were saying that the reason that they thought that because my first question whenever I hear a conspiracy theory is, what does anybody gain by hiding this information?
Well,
and they were saying that actually the reason that they hid it was because we needed to move on from the Second World War, and by saying we got Hitler, that's it, he's dead, we got to move on and start rebuilding.
Yeah, we didn't have to worry about him
chasing him around the world.
Yeah, because
people
wouldn't have.
I buy that reason. That's a good reason.
I mean, you look at Bin Laden and Saddam. You know, people weren't happy until they'd actually seen him dead. Do you know what I mean? We spent years hunting Bin Laden or whatever, like millions and millions of dollars, and people wouldn't rest easy until they knew he were gone. It would have been the same thing with Hitler, essentially. Do you know, people wouldn't have been able to rest without...
And it's been a very persistent rumour, like, almost since the war ended.
Yeah.
It's been a very long-running
Well, they did bone density. I don't know how they determine age of bones, how old they were when they died and the sex and all that, but there is where I think they take the DNA from the bones, don't they?
You can take a DNA sample to see, I guess you'd look for genetic markers as to what the gender is of the bone. You can actually tell, actually, here's a bit of information that I know from radiography. You can actually tell the difference between men's and women's bones because men's bones are actually denser than women's. It's part of the reason why we're heavier than women are.
Well, this is what they're saying. They're saying that the skull they believed that was
I'm not sure
Hitler's.
if you're able to tell it on bones from 70 years ago,
but
you can tell it from bones.
Apparently, it was that of a 30-year-old cleaning woman or something like that. They believed who were a cleaning woman. He was a clever guy. He would have got out of there. I can't just see him just...
I don't know. I don't know how clever he is.
He's probably the closest anybody's come to conquering the world. The modern world. No one will ever come as close as him again, I don't think. Whole of Europe, borrows.
It's a convincing conspiracy theory, at least. I can buy certain aspects of it.
There is, and I mean, there's been pictures floating around the years.
The things that bug me about this particular theory, because I've just said that I actually like the reasoning behind it. Makes sense to me. I can buy the reason behind it. But what bugs me about the theory is the total and utter lack of evidence. And another thing that bugs me about conspiracy theorists is they say a lack of evidence is evidence that they're right, which is fucking crazy. A lack of evidence is never evidence.
It depends in the terms of a cover-up.
No, because what if there is just no evidence? That's why you can't say a lack of evidence.
This is what I'm saying.
You
say the lack of evidence. There is photographs. Do you know, they can't say for certain it's Hitler. It's not certain concrete evidence, but it's possible. Do you know?
They make a great story though. There's that film, have you seen... I haven't seen it myself yet. There's a film where the film proposes that Hitler did escape, and that he I don't know if he time travels or if he's in suspended animation or something, but he wakes up in America as Hitler.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen that.
I'm going to watch it sometime because it sounds like an interesting concept. Brave idea whoever's done it, because whoever the fuck wants to play Hitler, I don't know. I wouldn't want to play Hitler if I was an actor. I'd genuinely rather play a serial killer than Hitler.
Robert Carlyle's played Hitler.
Really? What did he play Hitler in?
Hitler, Rise and Fall of Evil.
Fuck off.
He was Hitler. There's a 2-part thing for the History Channel.
He plays some dark characters, doesn't he, Robert Carlyle? I watched this film once where he played, I don't know if he was playing, I'm pretty sure he was playing like an Eastern European sex trafficker. It's like, I think it was called Human Trafficking. But he's like a fucking dark character, man. And even his character in The Beach, which is meant to be, quite a happy film in places, his character in that is pretty fucking dark too.
That's a brilliant film.
And then you got Begbie in Trainspotting. That's a fucking dark character.
Yeah, he's a bit twisted. I've not seen the second one of that.
I haven't seen it yet either.
I don't know if I want to watch it. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to spoil Trainspotting for me or what.
It's kind of why I've avoided it, really.
I just not fancied it. I kind of like Trainspotting as a film as well. It's...
I've also avoided watching Trainspotting any time in recent years because I feel like that might be a film where it's a product of its time, and if I watch it now, I might spoil it.
I think it's a big part of British culture, that film.
Oh, that was a quick tangent, wasn't it?
It was. I don't actually know where that
Where are we going? Hitler, Robert Carlyle, Hitler.
Yeah,
that's about Hitler escaping. I think we've probably gone as far as we can go on that topic. So, yeah. I have some interesting mysteries that I highlighted that I knew you'd find interesting.
And let's just say he's not told me about any of these mysteries before we've done this.
They're so good. They're such good mysteries that even I find them compelling and interesting. And I'm a proper skeptic.
Yeah, he is a proper skeptic. I'm a bit more open-minded. As long as they've got some evidence to back it up. I'm a skeptic, but if you show me evidence, I can change my mind. I'm not. The only problem is it's not concrete evidence. Unlike going back to the ancient civilizations, we're never going to get solid concrete evidence because it's just not available.
No, but when we first talked about this, I was like, this is bullshit. This is all bullshit. But then I sent you the podcast.
I sent you the podcast first. I knew it'd grass you a bit.
But it's put me in the realm of thinking this is a genuine possibility.
Well, that's all he wants. That's all Graham Hancock wants. That's all he says. He just wants the people to think it's a possibility, and we should be preparing for the worst.
Right, I'm going to mention this one, even though I haven't read the full story yet. But recently, there's been an update on the story. But there is a book called the Voynich Manuscript. Have you ever heard of it?
No. Right.
Basically, it is a text written on like very old paper. I don't know when it's from. I'll see if I can find out. But anyway, the whole thing is written. It looks like it's written in a language that has grammar, structure, spelling, the same way that any modern language does. But not one single person in the entire world, including military code breakers and code breaking machines, has been able to decipher what this manuscript says. And I'll quickly show you. Look, I'll put the picture up on the screen so you guys can see it. If you look, that's part of what the script says. But then there's like illustrations, and the whole text is like, it's got pictures of weird shit in it. It's clearly an actual book written by someone for some reason, but nobody's been able to figure out what it is or why. Now, as I said, there is a bit of an update to it because a group of scientists studied it and said they don't have evidence for it, but the theory is that it is a collection of plagiarized texts talking about women's health. Because a lot of the pictures in it, they're feminine pictures, and there's a lot of stuff that look like they could be cooking instructions or medicinal instructions. So I can kind of see where they're coming from with it, but I don't buy it.
Well,
I need
the date. I need the date from the texts. Where did they find it?
Right.
Do you know, all these are important information. Because a book doesn't have legs on its own. Yes, it could have been carried, but I'm pretty sure that if it were in the ocean, it would have been degraded so much by now.
It wasn't found in the ocean, I know that much. Blah, 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 blah. So they think it's been carbon dated, so they actually know when it was written. It's in the 15th century, and they think it was written in northern Italy in the 15th century during the Italian Renaissance. But it does not match any language from that time period or any other time period. And even if, let's see if Wikipedia has more pictures on it, because
so maybe
that does not look like something written in northern Italy, does it? That almost looks Arabic to me, like a combination of Latin and Arabic. Especially if you look at the... Where's the other picture gone? Oh, you can't see it on there.
So, right.
Like, people think that it's like a codex. Do you know what a codex is?
Is it like a...
the whole book is like a secret decoder for another language.
Right. Like,
you use the book to decipher an entire other language. That's what some people think it is. But like, nobody knows where it came from. They know it came from in northern Italy, they know it came from the 15th century, but that's all they know about it. Everything else is a complete fucking mystery.
Yeah. Well, when did they find it? They didn't find it in the 15th century, did they?
No, they would have found it way after. Let's have a look.
Oh,
Oh, no, actually, it even says possibly northern Italy. It doesn't say it's actually found in northern Italy.
So they've just carbon dated it to 15th century.
It was discovered in 1665. So actually, it's discovered in the 16th century. 15th century, sorry.
No, it's 17th century.
Is it?
Hmm.
No, it isn't, because the 2000s is the 21st century.
Yeah, so you're always one in front.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's carbon dated to the 15th century, found in the 17th century. And like it's been sent to professional code breakers and all kinds of shit. And nobody can say what it. Not only can they not say what language it's written, but they don't know what it's about or why someone wrote it. For a long time, people thought that it was like a hoax, like someone had made it up on purpose, until they carbon dated it and found out, like, well, if someone is making a hoax, then they were really going for the long con, because that's a good couple of hundred years that they were trying to hoax it. They did an energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy. I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Nope.
Another word, X-ray. It's to try and determine what was in the ink that they used to write it.
What will that information tell you?
I don't know. Maybe certain places have very specific inks.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, why would someone write this? Where would it come from? What the fuck is it for? Like, I think that is a pretty cool mystery. Because like somewhere out there, that'd make a great movie, I think. Imagine you made a film about...
What, about someone who wrote a book and no one knew who wrote it?
Or what it says.
But how's that going to excite people?
Because you could have the whole mystery. You know, like Dan Brown, it's a mystery of him trying to decode what the Da Vinci
Yeah,
Code
but there's
is.
actually people chasing him through film and trying to kill him and stuff like
You
that.
could do the same thing with the Voynich Manuscript. But that's a genuinely interesting mystery, I think, because like no one knows who wrote it or what they were writing it for. They don't even know what fucking language it was written in. That's a genuinely interesting mystery, I think. But maybe if that one's not quite exciting enough for you, I've got a couple more. So the next one, come on, phone, scroll. Oh, we already seen the Antiquity Theory of Mechanism. This one I know you're going to like. I did mention it to you before. The Baigong Pipes. And this is in an area of China not known to ever contain people, let alone industry. There are 3 mysterious triangular openings on top of a mountain containing hundreds of ancient rusty iron pipes. Some of the pipes go deep into the mountain and some of them go into a nearby saltwater lake. There's more pipes in the lake and they run east to west along the lake shore. They seem to be in purposeful patterns. And here's the crazy part. When archaeologists dated the pipes, they were dated to a time when people hadn't even figured out how to cook food with fire yet.
Like what, prehistoric?
Now we're talking a long time ago. I'll double check this in a second because that seems like a bit too old for me. But another crazy thing is, there on this mountain, like if you were building, like maybe it's an irrigation system, right?
Yeah.
A weird one because I don't know how it would work, given that the pipes go down. But let's imagine it is something like that, some sort of agricultural tool. The entire mountain is inhospitable. It's completely pointless to build anything there. Never mind agricultural tools.
It is from so long ago that it's.
Is that still recording?
Yeah. So what are these things called?
The Bygone Pipes. Baigong.
Bygone.
Oh, Baigong.
Baigong.
Yeah. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it. The Bygone Pipes. See, I thought this one would be more up your street.
See, there's another place in China called the Shandong Caves.
And what are the Shandong caves?
They were caves that were built by the Chinese. They don't know by what civilization. They know they were built about 4,000 years ago. All long new caves. And if you look at the pictures, it's pretty spectacular how they even could have done this. Like at a time, I'm saying it was built in 1212 BC. But there's loads more of it that they haven't even been able to get into. But like, I mean, they question how they even had the skill.
I've seen these before. They are quite cool.
How they even had the skill to do it. Like they were saying there's 4 chambers that they've found, and each chamber is exactly the same size, same width. Each ripple is in the same dimension. Do you know, all the stone pillars has the same amount of ripples. It's all the same. Like, and they're saying that there's no way they could have knew how to do that.
Be careful of leaning too far, or you might be off camera again.
That could be. Yeah. So there's quite a few. We don't really know why. It's just civilization's a crazy thing. Like, I mean, even Atlantis has to have some credence. It has to have come from somewhere. We've not just invented this ancient civilization. And you know, every single civilization has some legend about Atlantis. Do you know, the big ones that were around and had anything to say, like the Greeks, the Egyptians. Do you know, even like the Sumerians, the Babylonians, they all knew that this Atlantis existed, and some cataclysm wiped it out. It was buried one day and one night. It gone. That's what the legends say. But there's also other places in other religions like the same things happened. But like I said, the water level. I mean, it's a known fact that the Bering Strait once connected Canada
and that was due
Russia.
To the Ice Age, though.
It wasn't just due to the Ice Age. It was due to the lower levels of sea levels back then. They were 400 foot lower. I mean, these are what this is how they imagine that the Indians got to America in the first place, because apparently they believe that America wasn't inhabited at first. And that the people have emigrated to America.
I guess you can kind of see that. More so if you look at the Inuit of Alaska. You could probably find a common ancestor between them and East Asia from where the Bering Strait is.
Apparently they were saying the journey from Siberia to North America took the Clovis people around, I think they said something stupid like 20,000 years.
Do you know, Joe Rogan mentioned this, and I'm pretty sure that he said that the Clovis theory has been disproven.
No, they've not disproven that the Clovis. They've disproven. They didn't think that the Clovis were the Indians. That's been disproven now. I think they were saying.
The other pipes I was talking about, they're radioactive as well. That's weird as fuck, isn't it?
Very strange.
And the last thing that I was going to show you was I thought I forgot what it was. Is it in Costa Rica? Yeah, I think it's Costa Rica. You can Google it yourself because my phone's spazzing out. But in Costa Rica they have a series of stones, like big stones. They're almost perfectly spherical.
It is Costa Rica, yeah.
I thought that was interesting too. There's like, not really. People always go on about, oh, like, but did they have the tools to do this? Did they have the capacity to do this? I'm more interested about why. Why would you carve loads of round stones? I could understand one or two, but why would you carve loads of them?
It's the same thing with Easter Island. Do you know they carved 827 stone heads that are now revealed that they're actually big statues.
Oh, and they're buried?
Yeah.
I
And
didn't know
the
that.
rest of the bodies are underground, and they say they're about 60 foot. Which is pretty impressive for a civilization that's still chucking spears and stuff like that.
No, but that doesn't mean they don't know how to solve
No,
problems.
I'm not saying they don't, but I'm saying it is pretty amazing for the tools and the level of technology they had to be able to do that. Is and we're talking like there is a mysterious thing about the Easter Island. Like, they don't know where they went. They just disappeared. Died off. They believe it were
There's
smallpox, shit like that.
There's also, if you Google it, there is a culture of people. I can't remember if they crash landed in the Caribbean islands, but if you just Google Croatoan, Kroatoan, that's also a fairly interesting mystery, which I think you might like. It's like a civilization of people that just disappeared overnight. They've solved the mystery, but I don't want to ruin the end of the story for you.
So they were they not on Crete? On the
I
island
think they
of
were
Crete.
on a different island, yeah.
Yeah, they're on the Isle of Crete off the coast of Greece, yes. Yeah. I think it is. The Cretan Minoan civilizations.
I think it's dangerous though.
Well, do you know that civilization was 4000 BC.
The Croatoan one? No, they were settlers. I should Google this now because I feel like you're talking about one thing and I'm talking about something else.
I think I'm talking about the Minoan.
Because I'm pretty sure the Croatoans they were some island off the coast of America, maybe in the Caribbean somewhere.
Are you not thinking about the other island where they still eat people and you can't go there?
No.
What's that island called?
It is, like I said, it's spelled with a C, not a K. I got that part wrong. But it is an island. It's called Hatteras Island now. But a Croatoan tribe. Well, actually, a tribe carved the word Croatoan into a tree, and that was the last thing that anyone ever heard of that colony. That was in 1590, and they just vanished after that.
This sort of stuff interests me. It's stuff like this as well.
I bet you love the Bermuda Triangle, don't you?
And do you know what I do?
Do
Do you know what, this goes back to the hollow earth thing that we were talking about before. Like that, they believe that is one of the places to.
But here's the craziest thing about the Bermuda Triangle. Like, it has this reputation, right? But more ships go missing off the coast of South Africa than they do in the Bermuda Triangle. In fact, the Bermuda Triangle is one of the busiest shipping lanes in the entire world, yet there are not that many ships disappear there.
No, but
it's a complete fabrication that loads of ships mysteriously vanish there. It's a couple of wild stories. It's one of the safest shipping routes in the world.
They don't go directly through the triangle.
They do go straight through it. You have to go to the different Bermuda islands. You can't go all the way around them. Corporations don't care about ships disappearing. They care about, being economical with the fuel. So they don't go around it. They go straight through it. Loads of ships do. It's a complete myth. Is the Bermuda Triangle. I'm not saying that the stories about the weird ships and stuff isn't true. They might be true. What I'm saying is there's no supernatural vortex in the Bermuda Triangle that sucks ships and planes in. That's just not true. Look, shitloads of planes fly over it all the time. Shitloads of ships sail through it all the time. No, they don't go missing.
It's Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, the place where they still eat people.
Yeah. Melanesian tribes. Oh, I thought there were more cannibal islands still around. There's loads of crazy theories and mysteries.
There is, but I feel like sometimes, especially in the conspiracy theory community, what they tend to do is they love the theory so much that they'll never let it go. Even when someone comes along with information that disproves it, they'll just go, "No, it's fake news. It's fake news. It's a cover-up. It's a conspiracy. And I think that's unhealthy. So I think it's a good thing to consider all possibilities, but if you're given information that refutes what you're saying, don't be dogmatic and stick to your guns because you don't want to admit you're wrong or because you really want to believe the theory. Admit when you're wrong. You learn from admitting when you're wrong. You don't if you don't admit. And the Bermuda Triangle one is a perfect example of it because it's not a dangerous place to go through at all.
No, they just paint the picture. Have you seen how many of these old sites there are?
What do you mean old sites?
Like places that are like old ancient sites. Like there's one. I heard someone talking about it, and I think it is in China, and they've dated it. Guampadong or something like that.
Guampadong.
Let me have a look. Nanpadong or something like that.
Right, so excluding the one that we were just talking about, but what is your favourite conspiracy theory? Or a myth. Could be a myth. Just something which you think is interesting. That you find personally compelling.
I think they're all pretty interesting, to be honest. They are all interesting. Just because it's good to know how people think and what they think. Do you know, some of them are absolute stupid, but it's still good that there's still people out there thinking these things because it's good. Because we should be all possibilities should be explored. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what here is?
All plausible options should be explored.
Here is a modern, plausible conspiracy theory featuring an A-list Hollywood actor, which I think is interesting. It's an actor I actually like as well. Do you know who Lee Ramini is?
Yeah, I do. King of Queens.
Yeah,
starred in with Karen James.
Correct. She used to be
Scientology, innit?
She used to be a Scientologist, and she left the religion not too long ago. And I think it might have even been on Joe Rogan's podcast. And she was talking about the fact that she personally saw Tom Cruise issuing physical punishment to other members of Scientology. Is it true? I don't know. Tom Cruise seems like a really nice guy, but he's an actor, so he could easily act like a really nice guy if he wanted to.
Yeah.
And he's, that's part of what he does as a career. He's charismatic and he can pretend to be something he's not, pretty effectively. But how crazy is that? To think that someone of his stature could... First of all, I think it's crazy that he's managed to get inducted into that cult in the first place. I'm not going to call it a religion because I don't think it is.
Do you know, it's been around for a while, hasn't it? And do you know, it's all based on a book that is known to be bollocks, isn't it?
Kind of.
Who wrote the book?
L. Ron Hubbard. He was a very shit science fiction writer.
He was...
Do you know,
by all accounts, I believe they were talking about this on Joe Rogan as well. I believe it labels him a crazy old bastard or something like that. He says something along them lines. Then it just seems all stupid to me, Scientology. It seems a bit cultish, and I think the world should stay away from stuff like that.
Right, here's an interesting thing. I disagree with Scientology and pretty much everything that it teaches, since it's in complete contradiction to everything that makes sense. But is it any crazier than any other religion?
No, not really.
Imagine Christianity didn't exist, and tomorrow I invented it. The exact same books, the exact same stories. How likely do you think people would be to believe me? No one would fucking believe me. They don't think I was mental.
Do you know what? I like Jimmy Carr because he has a really good joke where some guy he's a Christian and he starts taking the piss out of him. He just goes,
so what are you going to do? Forgive me?
No. When he's on about the goes, is there any religious people in? And this guy goes, yeah. He goes, well, what's your name, Andreas? And that, and he goes, Andreas, would you be interested in some magic beans? And he's like looking at him, and he's like, because you're fucking gullible. You know, basically, and they are. They've been taught this, and I'm not discrediting all religions, but it's clearly designed to control people. Every religion across the board is designed to keep people in line, and you know, all this heaven and hell shit talk, and you know,
well, it's exactly what they were designed for. In fact, if you look back, these are only two people, obviously. There's lots of people that talk about religion, and neither of these two is a theologian either. So they're not experts on religion, but they're widely respected figures in their field. The first is Karl Marx. Everybody knows who Karl Marx is. And he said that religion is the opium of the masses. So basically he was saying that religion was used to subdue people into not revolting and not forcing change. That was his theory.
It's a form of control.
But Emil Durkheim, who is a sociologist, I can't remember when.
Probably 50s.
It's a long time ago anyway.
No.
It's a long time ago. But anyway, his theory on religion was that religion serves a very important purpose in society, or at least it did. Not so much anymore. But the original purpose for religion was as a social glue to make people pull in the same direction.
Yeah, now we've got stuff like Facebook and social media.
I think they do the opposite of that. But do you know what is interesting though? I think there is something which mirrors religion, mirrors the mechanics of religion and the purpose of religion in a lot of ways. Sports. And I know this sounds fucking stupid.
No, but you're right, because people do. They idolise these players, and
I don't even mean that aspect of it. I mean, if you look at what according to Emil Durkheim, who said that the purpose of religion was to unify people and make them all work towards the same goal.
It also makes us tribal.
That's exactly what sports does.
It does when England are playing, but when our own individual teams, it turns us into more primal creatures.
No, it doesn't.
Not everyone, but we're talking like serious followers of the club, and like, people who go again, they really despise some other clubs.
They do, but if you look at, in fact, in many ways, it's more unifying than religion is. Because if you go to pick any football game in the UK, any football game, doesn't even matter which one, you can pick any football game, and it's the same with some other sports too. If you go and sit in the stands for one of those games and take a look around, you'll see people from all ages, all genders, all religions, all ethnicities, and they're all focusing on the same positive thing.
Yeah, I get
religion
what
doesn't
you're
even
saying.
do that. It doesn't unite people from different ethnicities, different socio-economic backgrounds, different ages and genders.
Football could never fucking unite everybody. Well, not like the religion did in the early days.
No, well, obviously there's a limit to what it can do. But what I'm saying is that if you, in some ways, sports serves the same function or has the same effect on people that religion used to. And that's my theory on religion. I don't think it's personally useful anymore as religion. It's not that it's not useful actually, because I've read the Bible many times as a Cub Scout. I was forced to read it, and I've read parts of other religious texts as well. And I think that there are good parts in every religion, but it's not supposed to be a set of instructions on how to live your life. You're supposed to glean moral lessons from what that text tells you. And that's what you're supposed to take. You're not supposed to take that on the Sabbath you can't eat fish or whatever the hell that crazy shit is.
Do you know, but the thing that winds me up on
Working
the Bible,
on the Sabbath, that's what it is, not eating fish.
the thing that winds me up about the Bible is if you're supposed to interpret it as fact, yet it gives no dates.
The Bible doesn't present itself as fact.
It doesn't present itself as a set of fictional stories.
It presents it as fact. It does present itself as a series of fictional stories.
It
does not state at any point that these events actually happened. The whole thing is meant to be like a morality tale. Like what Hans Christian Andersen used to make, like the story of Hansel and Gretel, for example. It doesn't say it's fact. It also doesn't say it's fiction. But you know it is fiction, and you know that the purpose of the tale is to warn you of strangers and to warn you to be more skeptical of people and to think critically. Which is the other thing that religion strips away, I think. It strips away your ability to think critically.
Yeah.
That is literally, one of its primary functions is to stop people from questioning things. In many religions, actually, you're not really supposed to ask that many questions. And if you do ask questions, then they give you vague and ambiguous answers instead of real answers. I know, because I've been in the position where I've asked I've asked religious people questions that are difficult to answer, and they either evade the question or they give me an ambiguous answer.
Well, like God is all-knowing. God is everywhere. God can do anything.
If God is everywhere, why the fuck do I have to go to church? He's in my living room now. If I want to pray right now, he'll probably hear me, right? If he's omnipotent anyway.
It's bullshit.
You know what I think? There is a paradox that I think is... I don't think any religion passes this paradoxical test. With the exception of maybe Buddhism, because I don't think they actually have a god in Buddhism.
No,
I think they're just working towards enlightenment. I don't think they have gods per se, like other religions do. It's not
they're very secretive about how the religion works. No one really ever reads all their ancient texts and stuff like that, do they? You know what I mean?
But anyway, this paradox, which I think no religion passes, none.
Well, do you know what the oldest
and the
religion
paradox
is?
If God is all powerful, right? Can he create a rock that he himself cannot lift? That paradox proves that omnipotency is impossible.
If he's omnipotent, how could he create everything?
Well, supposedly that's what omnipotency is. You can do anything at any time for any reason. There are no restrictions on what you can do.
No, but there is no nothingness. If you're omnipotent, then you're nothingness.
I'm not sure I follow. That's not what omnipotence means.
No, but you are though. If you can't be everything, it's impossible. It's physically impossible.
I think the way that people think of the idea of God being everywhere is a bit like air. It's everywhere. You can't see it, you can't touch it, but it's everywhere.
But you know it's there. You don't know God's there.
People that are religious say they can know that God's there. They
No, they
feel
don't.
it. And in fact, a friend
Well, why would God not give that enlightenment to everybody?
Well, you've got to work towards it. That's what religious people believe. You get that enlightenment and that feeling of being connected to God by worshipping God and celebrating God in the ways that your particular religion states you should.
No, it's bullshit.
I disagree with it because, like I said, if
they're all seeing what they want to see. They're all interpreting things the way they want to interpret it.
religion is purposely vague and ambiguous so that you can put your own, so that you can project onto it and you can see what you want to see. It's purposefully done that way, because I don't know if it's purposefully done that way, but that is the way it looks. But that's only because I don't think people use religion properly. You're not supposed to go praying all the time. You're not supposed to do that. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to read the text, you're supposed to look at what the lesson from that text is, and that's what you're meant to accept. That's what you're meant to internalize. Not a series of superstitions, not a series of behavioural patterns. That's not what you're supposed to internalize. You're supposed to internalize the moral lesson from those stories.
A big book like that, though, there's a lot in it.
It's a racy book, you know, the Old Testament. It's a pretty good read, to be honest. If you can get past the language, if you can get past the archaic style of writing, then it's quite a good book. It doesn't have a compelling narrative in the sense that it is a continuous from point A to point B book, but the stories it tells is like an anthology of interesting stories. It's quite good. The newer ones aren't quite as interesting. I can't say for the Quran because I haven't read the whole of the Quran. I've only read parts of it, so I don't think it would be fair to pass judgment on the Quran. And I've never even seen a Torah, never mind read one.
No, I can't. I just can't accept the theories.
Well, they're not. Religion itself isn't bad. It's the people that use religion that are bad.
Yeah, the people in the power. They're always bad. I used to say these people aren't the same people that were in power fucking hundreds of years ago, so I don't know. Families that renamed themselves powerful families, you know. This shit's all real, man. Like, I even believe that the Rothschilds, the American family, they weren't originally called the Rothschilds, and they were called, were it the Rockefellers?
They're two totally different families.
But they're the two big families, aren't they?
Yeah, they're two of the biggest financial families in the US.
The Rockefellers, like
I think John Rockefeller, when he was alive, I think he was the richest person in the world.
they had his wealth logged at 318 billion.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous sum of money.
And that's like that.
In his defense, though, John Rockefeller wasn't all bad. He did quite a lot to redistribute some of that wealth, and he did quite a lot for charity.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories about that he was actually
I
a
knew
monster.
that you need to watch the Zeitgeist thing because he talks about this shit. And personally, I don't like it, but Adam was the person that turned me onto it and made me watch it.
But apparently he was a really horrible guy, like a rapist, a murderer, and everything.
Who was it back then?
Probably no one.
To be honest, let's not even talk about back then. If you're rich and powerful, who isn't a rapist and murderer in today's society? If you're rich and powerful, you can be what you want to be. There are no rules and restrictions.
Essentially, yeah. Because I mean, even now, like I mean, is it not Ronaldo that's just been accused of rape?
Yeah, he was accused of it.
I mean, I don't know whether he did it or whatever.
I don't think he'll go to court.
No. He's one of the world's biggest stars. There's not a chance he's going to go to court.
Here's an interesting thing about Ronaldo, actually. He's literally just been sentenced for tax evasion in Spain for when he played for Real Madrid.
Oh, yeah.
Just been sentenced. He's been given 2 years jail time. But because he's Ronaldo, he won't ever see the inside of a jail cell.
Well, it's funny because the Americans, they fucking sent Wesley Snipes down without a fucking... They didn't give a fuck, did they? They're like, see you later.
Do you not think it's funny that, like, no matter what country you're in, you can murder people, you can do a whole host of terrible things, but the minute you try not paying tax,
Ooh.
and you're a private citizen, like if you're properly tax evading and not just gaming the system,
they proper get shafted by tax as well. They proper get shafted by tax. Rich people, it's like 60% for the higher tax bracket, isn't it? 40% for the medium tax bracket and 20% for what we are.
I have a passing interest in economics, so I've actually read a lot of stuff about taxing and economic systems as well.
But they all find loopholes.
Which is why I think what they should incorporate instead is a flat tax rate with no loopholes and no exceptions. Everybody pays X amount of tax at all times.
But it's hard.
I know that sounds shit when you're a poor person and you're getting taxed the same as a rich person, but it is fair. Everybody pays the same tax.
And everyone's got the same amount, haven't they? And
no.
Everyone earns the same amount. We don't have enough for the cost of living, and we don't have enough now.
If the tax is a percentage, like if everybody pays 25, let's use 25% as an example, which is lower than our taxes now. If you use 25% as an example, 25% of your wage is fuck all compared to 25% of Richard Branson's wage. And if you have a flat tax rate that you can't avoid, then the people who are rich have two options. They can either accept that flat tax rate, or they can leave and go somewhere else.
I wish I could do that anyway. Not that I hate this country, I'm a proud person. I'm sick of the weather. Fucking depressing. Fucking rain, drizzle.
Do you know what's interesting is I have a friend who's in Brazil, and she's been to the UK. I think she came a few years ago, but she loves the weather here.
How?
Because she says it's so hot in Brazil that it pisses her off.
Nah,
like
it does get hot
all the time.
Like
every
this
single
summer,
day, piping hot.
Yeah, but if just fucking sit in your house, open a window, get your balls out. Do you know? Get some air
she can't do that.
Well, just get your flaps out. Whichever way you want.
That part's definitely going
bust
in
out a cunt grunt.
I don't think, what's that? I don't even know if I should ask.
Did you watch Jimmy Carr with me last week? A muff puff.
Ah, right. A fanny fart, basically.
Yeah. A queef.
A queef. Do you not think that is a stupid name?
It is a stupid word.
A queef. It sounds like a piece of jewellery.
I need to start a campaign here right now as well. What is people's problem with the word moist? So I say the word moist and people start cringing like it's a word.
No, not people. In my experience, it's mostly just some women that don't like the word moist.
Like why? It's a beautiful word, moist. It rolls off the tongue. It's like sharp at the end.
campaigning for the word moist.
I don't get it.
I'll say this
just...
much. You try describing a good cake without the word moist.
Do you want
it's
it moist?
impossible. If you want to describe a good cake, moist is the first word that you spring to.
It's quite a northern word, though. And you know, people say it all the time. As that out moist. That's what I say when I need a drink. I'm in someone's house. That's that out moist.
Sometimes I wonder if I was born in the wrong country because I'm so not English. I might sound English to people from outside England, but shit like that, that made no fucking sense to me.